All right, so we are going to dive into female desire.
Oh, yes.
And you sent over Dr. Gina Ogden's book, The Return of Desire,
Right.
and some really interesting excerpts from her research on sexuality and spirituality. I'm excited to jump in.
It's a really interesting, departure, I think, from that clinical view of sex
Yeah.
that, purely focuses on mechanics to something much more holistic.
Yeah, it definitely seems like Ogden is pushing for a much more complete picture, right? Like it's less about
Yeah.
performing and more about really deeply connecting with
Yeah.
yourself and your partner, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally,
Mm-hmm.
and even spiritually.
Yeah, and I think that's really where her ISIS model comes in.
Yeah.
The integration of sexuality and spirituality.
Yeah.
And it's not just a clever name.
Yeah.
It really helps us understand desire as energy
Right.
that flows through all aspects of our lives.
Yeah. So let's break down this ISIS model a bit.
Okay.
She talks about these four energies of desire: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And it feels like she's really expanding the definition of what's even considered erotic.
Absolutely. She really stresses the importance of all over sensuality.
Oh, yeah.
And not just focusing, on the genitals. In fact, she mentions this woman who experienced a mind-blowing orgasm just listening to Beethoven's Ode to Joy.
Yeah.
So it really challenges our preconceived notions, right?
I mean, yeah, it makes you think about all the ways we experience pleasure and sensuality without even realizing it.
Right.
What about you?
What are some non-sexual experiences that I find sensual?
Yeah.
I think for me, it's often about nature, feeling the warmth of the sun on my skin, the coolness of the breeze, even something as simple as the scent of freshly cut grass
Oh, yeah.
can be incredibly sensual.
I totally agree about nature. For me, there's something about the feeling of soft fabrics, like cashmere or silk.
Oh, yeah.
Just sends chills down my spine.
Sure.
So those little things we often overlook.
Yeah. But getting back to Ogden, she also really dives into the emotional energy of desire.
Yes, and that's where feeling safe and cherished and truly seen by your partner comes in. She quotes a woman who describes the connection with her partner as simply, wow.
Wow.
That kind of deep emotional intimacy is such powerful fuel for desire.
It makes you wonder if a lot of the sexual dysfunction that gets labeled is really more about a lack of emotional connection.
Absolutely. And it highlights the limits of, just focusing on the physical aspect of desire. Sometimes the solutions need to go much deeper.
So Ogden also doesn't shy away from the mental energy of desire, right? How our thoughts and beliefs and past experiences really shape our desires in the present.
Right.
It's like we're carrying around all these scripts that tell us what we should or shouldn't feel.
It's fascinating how she deconstructs some of these scripts, like the good girl script.
Oh, yeah.
That tells women they shouldn't enjoy sex.
And that can create so much, internal conflict and shame.
Yeah. Have you ever felt like you had to suppress your sexuality or felt ashamed of your desires?
Oh, absolutely. I think a lot of women have internalized these messages in one way or another.
Right.
And it can be so liberating to finally recognize them and
totally
start to challenge them.
And it's not just about the good girl script.
Right.
Ogden also delves into this oh God script.
Yes, the oh God script, which is so interesting because it can manifest in two completely opposite ways.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this oh God script.
Well, on the one hand, it can be this longing for a transcendent, almost spiritual experience through sex.
Okay.
Which sounds amazing.
Right.
But it can also create a lot of pressure.
Right.
And performance anxiety.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like you're setting yourself up for disappointment if every sexual encounter isn't some kind of mystical experience.
Right. Like it has to be this over-the-top thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And what about the other side of the oh God script?
On the other hand, some women describe feeling completely disconnected from their desire.
Okay.
It's like they're observing their own bodies from a distance.
Interesting.
Feeling detached and numb. And Ogden suggests that for these women, simply addressing the physical or even the emotional aspects might not be enough.
Yeah.
There's this deeper longing for meaning and purpose that needs to be explored.
It's almost like there's a spiritual disconnect that's impacting their ability to connect with their desire on other levels.
Exactly. And this is where that integration piece of the ISIS model becomes so crucial, because it's about recognizing that all these aspects, the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual,
Yeah.
are intertwined.
They all affect each other.
They all influence each other.
So how does the spiritual energy fit into all of this?
Right.
Is she talking about like religion or something else entirely?
That's the beauty of it. She's not advocating for any specific religion.
Okay.
It's more about cultivating this connection to something larger than yourself, whether that's nature or the universe or a creative force.
This is making me think about how she differentiates between dominator and partnership models of relationships.
Yes.
Is there a connection there?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because in dominated relationships, one person is often trying to control or exert power over the other, and their needs and desires take priority.
Okay.
And that can really stifle a woman's ability to fully express her desire.
And it seems like she's suggesting that a lot of our cultural norms around sex actually reinforce this dominator model.
Yes, very much so.
I mean, think about that phrase she uses, cultural missionary position.
It's so eye-opening.
It's like, wow, yeah. It really highlights how traditional gender roles can limit a woman's sexual experience.
Exactly. It's almost like we're programmed to prioritize the male experience, and women are left to fit into that framework.
And that brings to mind the statistic she cites from Kinsey's research about the average duration of intercourse being just 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
It really makes you wonder if anyone was even paying attention to the woman's experience.
Right.
At all.
It's a stark reminder of how much we've missed the mark.
Totally.
When it comes to understanding female desire.
So how does the partnership model differ from this?
Okay.
And how does it relate to nurturing desire?
In a partnership model, both people are seen as equals.
Okay.
There's mutual respect, open communication, and a genuine desire to understand and fulfill each other's needs.
But honestly, isn't that a bit idealistic?
Yeah.
I mean, how realistic is it to expect complete equality in a relationship?
Right.
There are always going to be power dynamics at play, right?
You bring up a really important point. And Ogden acknowledges that it's not about achieving some perfect 50-50 balance in every aspect of the relationship. It's more about a fundamental shift in mindset. Where both partners are committed to understanding and respecting each other's needs and desires. And yes, there will be times when one person's needs take priority. But it shouldn't be a constant power struggle.
That makes a lot more sense. So in a true partnership, you're both invested in creating a space where each person feels safe and empowered to express themselves fully.
Exactly. And that's where desire can truly flourish. Ogden describes this couple who've been together for decades.
Oh, wow.
And they can't keep their hands off each other, she says.
Now, that's what I call relationship goals.
Right.
But it also makes you wonder if that level of passion is sustainable over the long term, or if it's just a fairy tale.
Well, it's definitely a question worth pondering.
Yeah.
And I think it speaks to the importance of constantly nurturing the relationship, of staying curious about each other and finding new ways to connect. It's not about expecting things to stay the same, but rather about evolving together and continuing to explore what desire means to both of you.
You know what this whole conversation is reminding me? That desire isn't something that just happens to us, something we actively cultivate.
That's such a powerful insight.
Right.
It really puts the power back in our hands.
And I'm curious to learn more about how we can actually do that.
Yeah.
What are some practical tips Ogden offers for nurturing desire?
Well, she talks about the importance of creating space for intimacy, both physically and emotionally. It's about making time for each other, even amidst the busyness of life.
So it's not just about scheduling sex, it's about making time for connection.
Exactly.
General.
Yeah, and it's about communicating openly with your partner, sharing your needs and desires, and being receptive to theirs.
That can be really challenging for some people.
Absolutely, especially if they've been conditioned to suppress their desires or haven't had the opportunity to explore them fully.
Right.
And that's where Ogden emphasizes the importance of self-awareness. It's about understanding your body, your emotions, and your own unique path to desire.
So it's not about trying to fit into some mold or follow a set of rules, but about figuring out what works for you.
Exactly. And she encourages women to become the authors of their own
Right.
sexual stories,
I love that.
to let go of those limiting beliefs and those societal
Wow.
expectations, and to define what desire means to them on their own terms.
This is so empowering.
Right.
It's like we have permission to rewrite the script
Yeah.
and create our own narratives around desire.
And that's where things get really interesting.
Right.
Because when we step into that space of ownership,
Yeah.
we open ourselves up to a whole new world of possibilities.
I'm so ready to explore those possibilities.
Me too.
But before we go any further, I think we need to delve into some of the specific
Okay.
challenges women face when it comes to desire.
Great point. Because it's not just about mindset and communication.
Right.
There are real physical and emotional barriers that can impact our experience of desire.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Yeah, let's do it.
So we've been talking about these mental and emotional blocks to desire.
Right.
But what about the physical side of things?
Mhm.
Ogden touches on how like hormonal changes
Yeah.
or childbirth or even just the stress of everyday life can really
Right.
take
Yeah.
a toll.
Absolutely. It's not all in our heads.
Yeah.
And she even points out how the medicalization of desire,
Oh, yeah.
with all these pharmaceuticals being pushed,
Mm.
can sometimes do more harm than good.
It's like we're trying to fix a symptom without addressing the root cause,
Exactly.
which seems to be a theme in Ogden's work.
Right, like putting a Band-Aid on a broken bone.
Right.
What Ogden emphasizes is the importance of self-awareness,
Yeah.
understanding your body, your emotions, and your own unique path to desire. And sometimes that means seeking out alternative approaches to healing.
I'm really glad you brought that up because you also included some excerpts from Ogden's research survey on sexuality and spirituality in the materials you sent over. What were some of the key findings that stood out to you?
What's fascinating is how many women in the survey reported finding a deeper connection to their sexuality
Okay.
through exploring their spirituality.
Interesting.
And it wasn't necessarily about religion,
Okay.
but more about cultivating this sense of awe, wonder, and connection to something bigger than themselves.
That's so interesting. It seems to tie back to what we were discussing earlier about the "Oh God" script.
Yes.
And that yearning for a transcendent experience.
Exactly. And for some women, that spiritual connection can be incredibly empowering.
Okay.
It can help them reclaim their bodies and their sexuality
Mm.
from those limiting societal messages that tell them what they should or shouldn't feel.
It's like they're tapping into a source of energy and wisdom that goes beyond
Yeah.
the purely physical.
Exactly. And it can be such a powerful antidote to the shame and guilt
Right.
that so many women have internalized.
This makes me think about the whole good girl script we were talking about earlier.
Mhm.
Do you think there's a connection between that script and women's difficulty in accessing?
That's a really insightful question.
Yeah.
And I think there might be.
Okay.
Because if you're constantly being told to suppress your desires to be ashamed
Right.
of your body and its pleasures,
Mm.
it can be really hard to connect with that sense of awe and wonder
Yeah.
that Ogden talks about.
It's almost like those societal messages create a disconnect between
Yeah.
our bodies and our spirits.
Exactly.
We learn to see our sexuality as something separate from our spiritual selves.
Right.
Something to be controlled or even feared.
And that's such a tragedy because
Yeah.
when we can integrate those aspects of ourselves,
Right.
when we can see our sexuality as a sacred part of our being,
Yeah.
it opens up a whole new world of possibilities.
Oh, okay. So let's get practical for a moment.
Okay.
How can someone who's been struggling with these issues, whether it's physical, emotional,
Yeah.
spiritual,
Yeah.
start to reconnect with their desire? What are some like baby steps they can take?
Well, one thing Ogden emphasizes is the importance of making time for self-care and pleasure.
Okay.
It's about creating space in your life to simply enjoy your body and its senses
Mm-hmm.
without any pressure or expectations.
That's great advice. I think so many of us get caught up in the business of life
Yeah.
that we forget to simply slow down and enjoy the simple pleasures.
Exactly. It's about rediscovering the joy of feeling the warmth of the sun on your skin or savoring the taste of a delicious meal.
Yeah.
It's about tuning into those subtle sensations that we often overlook.
And I imagine that can be a powerful way to start reclaiming your body and feeling more comfortable in your own skin.
Yes. And from there, it can be helpful to start exploring different ways to connect with your sensuality,
Okay.
whether it's through dance or yoga or massage, or even just taking a long, luxurious bath.
It's about finding what feels good for you
Yes.
and allowing yourself to experience pleasure without judgment.
Exactly. And as you start to feel more comfortable in your body,
Yeah.
you might find it easier to explore your sexuality
Mm.
in new ways.
That's a great segue into some of the more practical tips Ogden offers for nurturing desire within a relationship.
Oh, yeah.
What are some of her suggestions?
Well, she talks a lot about the importance of communication.
Okay.
It's about being open and honest with your partner about your needs and desires
Yeah.
and being willing to listen to theirs.
That can be really challenging for some people.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
especially if they're not used to talking about sex or haven't felt safe to do so in the past.
Right.
It definitely takes practice.
Hmm.
But Ogden suggests starting with small steps.
Okay.
Maybe it's just sharing a fantasy or talking about something you enjoyed
Okay.
during a recent sexual encounter.
It's about creating a space of trust and vulnerability
Yes.
where both partners feel comfortable expressing themselves.
And it's important to remember that communication isn't just about talking. It's also about listening.
Right.
Really listening to your partner and trying to understand their perspective, even if it's different from your own.
That's so important. And it goes back to what we were discussing earlier about the partnership model.
Exactly.
And the importance of mutual respect and understanding.
Absolutely. And when you have that foundation of trust and communication,
Right.
it opens up so much more potential for exploration and pleasure.
Ogden also talks about the importance of making time for intimacy,
Mhm.
both physically and emotionally.
Right.
And I think that's something that's easily overlooked in our busy lives.
Absolutely.
How does she suggest couples carve out that time for each other?
She encourages couples to schedule regular date nights where they can focus on connecting with each other
Okay.
without distractions.
So it's not just about having sex, it's about creating a space
Right.
for intimacy and connection.
Exactly. It could be something as simple as cooking a meal together or
Mhm.
going for a walk or just cuddling up on the couch and talking.
Okay.
The important thing is to make it a priority
Mm-hmm.
and to protect that time from other demands.
It's like creating a sacred space for your relationship to flourish.
That's a beautiful way to put it, and I think it's something that's often missing in modern relationships.
Yeah.
We're so busy with work and family and other obligations that we forget to nurture the connection with our partners.
And when that connection starts to fade, it can really impact
Yes.
our desire.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So it's crucial to make that time for each other, even if it's just for a few minutes each day.
It's those little moments of connection
Yeah.
that can make all the difference.
And don't underestimate the power of touch.
Oh, yeah.
Even small gestures like holding hands, cuddling, or giving each other a back rub
Yeah.
can go a long way
Right.
in fostering intimacy and desire.
It's about staying physically connected throughout
Uh-huh.
the day, not just during those designated intimate moments.
Right. It's about making those little acts of affection a part of your daily routine.
And what about exploring fantasies?
Oh, yes.
Ogden seems to be a big proponent of that.
Absolutely.
How does she suggest couples approach that topic?
She encourages couples to talk openly and honestly about their fantasies
Yeah.
without judgment or shame.
That can be a really vulnerable thing to do.
It can, especially if you're worried about your partner's reaction.
Right.
But Ogden suggests starting by sharing something small, maybe a scene from a movie or a book
Okay.
that you found arousing.
It's about dipping your toes in the water
Exact.
before diving into the deep end.
Yes. And the important thing is to create a space where both partners feel safe to share without feeling pressured or ridiculed.
I imagine that can lead to some really exciting discoveries and deeper intimacy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it can be a fun way to spice things up in the bedroom
Right.
and to break out of those routine patterns.
It's like you're giving each other permission to explore different sides of yourself.
Yes.
And to step outside of your comfort zone.
And who knows what you might discover along the way.
I think that's a great message to leave our listeners with. It's all about exploration,
Yes.
experimentation, and finding what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one right way to experience desire, and it's a journey, not a destination.
Beautifully said. And I think the most important thing is to approach this journey with curiosity, compassion,
Yeah.
and a sense of adventure.
And to remember that it's never too late to rediscover your desire and
Absolutely.
reclaim your pleasure.
And to embrace the full spectrum of your sexuality, from the
Right.
playful to the profound.
Well, this has been an incredibly insightful conversation.
It has.
But before we wrap up, I'm curious to hear your final thoughts on how we can integrate all of these different aspects of desire, the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual, to create a truly fulfilling sexual experience.
That's a great question. And I think it goes back to Ogden's emphasis on seeing desire as an energy
Okay.
that flows through all aspects of our lives.
Yeah,
It's not just about what happens in the bedroom.
right.
It's about how we show up in the world. how we connect with ourselves and others,
Mm-hmm.
and how we cultivate a sense of meaning and purpose in our lives.
So it's about creating a life that feels aligned with our values and desires,
Yeah.
and allowing our sexuality to be an expression of that wholeness.
Exactly. And I think when we can do that, when we can integrate all those different parts of ourselves,
Yeah.
that's when we can experience true sexual liberation.
What a powerful image to end on.
Right.
I'm feeling inspired to go out there and embrace my desire in all its fullness.
Me too.
What about you?
Absolutely. It's been a truly enlightening conversation, and I'm feeling energized to continue exploring this journey of self-discovery.
So to all our listeners out there, remember that your desire is a precious gift,
It is.
and it's never too late to reclaim it
Yes.
and let it guide you towards a more fulfilling and joyful life.
And remember, there's no shame in seeking support and guidance along the way, whether it's from a therapist or a coach or a trusted friend.
Right.
Having a supportive community can make all the difference.
You know, it's so inspiring to hear you talk about desire in this way.
Yeah.
It's not just about sex. It's about, like, embracing life in all its richness.
It really is. And I think one of the things I love most about Ogden's work is how she really encourages women to become the authors of their own sexual stories.
Oh, yeah.
You know, not letting society or even their partners dictate what they should or shouldn't feel.
Yes, and something she said that really struck me was the idea that our bodies are these erotic landscapes waiting to be explored.
Yes.
It's not just about, like, reaching a destination, but it's about enjoying the journey.
Absolutely. It's about tuning in to those subtle sensations.
Right.
Whether it's, you know, the feel of silk on your skin or the taste of ripe strawberry or the sound of rain falling on the roof. It's about awakening all of our senses.
It's about finding pleasure in the everyday and realizing that our bodies are capable of experiencing so much more than we often give them credit for.
Right.
What are some of your favorite ways to tap into that all-over sensuality?
Well, I find that dance can be incredibly liberating.
Oh, yeah.
It's a way to move my body freely, to express myself without words, and to connect with my sensuality in a very primal way.
What about you? Oh, I love that. I've recently gotten into aromatherapy.
Oh, nice.
And I'm amazed by how certain scents can just evoke such powerful emotions and memories.
Right.
It's like this direct pathway
Yeah.
to my sensual self.
It's amazing how our senses can transport us
Yeah.
to different times and places, isn't it?
Totally.
And I think that's part of what Ogden is getting at when she talks about the mental and emotional aspects of desire.
Right.
It's not just about physical sensations. It's about the stories we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
The fantasies we create.
Right.
And the memories we hold within our bodies.
She even talks about using your imagination to reframe past experiences.
Right.
To transform pain into pleasure. That seems like a really powerful concept,
It is powerful.
but maybe a little daunting to approach on your own.
Yeah, and it's not something to be taken lightly.
Right.
It might be helpful to work with a therapist or counselor if you're dealing with past trauma or pain.
Yeah.
But the idea is that we have the power to rewrite our own narratives.
Right.
To change the way we relate to our experiences.
Yeah.
And to find healing and even pleasure in places where we once felt pain.
It really speaks to the resilience of the human spirit and our ability to heal and transform ourselves. And it makes me think about how important it is to surround ourselves with people who support and encourage our journey.
Absolutely. It's about creating a community where we feel safe to explore, to express ourselves, and to celebrate our sexuality in all its forms.
So to bring it all back to our listener, what do you think is the most important takeaway from this deep dive into the world of female desire?
I think the biggest takeaway is that desire is not a fixed point.
Okay.
It's a journey of self-discovery.
Yeah.
It's about embracing the fullness of who you are, body, mind, heart, and spirit, and allowing yourself to experience pleasure in all its forms.
Yeah. It's about letting go of those limiting beliefs and societal expectations and defining what desire means to you on your own terms.
Exactly. It's a lifelong exploration.
Right.
And it's never too late to reclaim your desire.
Right.
It's a life force that resides within each of us, waiting to be awakened.
Desire can be such a source of joy and connection and even spiritual transcendence, as Ogden so beautifully describes. So to all our listeners out there, go out there and rediscover your desire.
Yes.
Explore your sensual self, nurture your relationships, and embrace the journey.
Beautiful.